Hi everybody, this is going to be a tutorial on your first writing assignment and mostly APA format. So you'll use this for both papers you have to write. It should be in APA format. So I know that most of you are not familiar with that, so this is going to be an introduction to kind of show you where to get started, where to look for help, and what your paper should look like. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you where to find your resources. So if you go to the Blackboard page, so this is our Blackboard page here, go down to writing assignments over here, click that. So you have writing assignment 1, 2, and then this APA format folder. So for writing assignment 1, all your information is in that folder. We're going to start with APA format. So there's just one resource in here right now. This video will go in there too, but you can click on this Purdue OWL website. So this is going to help you figure out how to do APA format. If you have any questions about citing sources, this is a good way um, to figure that out. So see right up here, cite your source automatically. So this is really good. The only source you have to use is your textbook. But if you do use any other sources, you have to cite them. Otherwise, it's considered plagiarism. So if you're using a website, you can post the URL here. If you're using a book, a journal article, you can just on whatever source you're using, type it in, and it'll do it all for you. And then all you have to do is copy. So I would strongly recommend that you use this source when you're citing even your textbook, because that way you're not going to have any mistakes. If you try to do it by yourself, you might mess up. So this is going to be the easiest option for doing those citations. And then if you scroll through, it has some general information. Over on the side, you can see that there's this is your reference list. So you can, if you have a source you're not sure, you can look there. There are sample papers. So right here, APA sample paper, you can click on that and see what an APA paper looks like. And then up here, there's ones on in-text citations, which is also going to be important. So there's not an automatic generator for that, so you will need to do that on your own. It's real easy, and I'm going to show you an example as well. But if you want more help, you can come here. Okay, so that's Purdue OWL, so I would strongly recommend you use that source. Okay, so I already have the instructions pulled up for this paper we're doing. So let's start with the instructions. Okay, so as you can see, first paper is due Wednesday, April 8th at 11:59 p.m. So even though we changed the dates for your daily assignments and your quizzes, writing assignment dates have not changed. So this will need to be turned in by Wednesday, April 8th at 11:59 p.m. Otherwise, it will be considered late and will not be accepted. I put the prompt here. So you're going to design a research study. You can choose any topic you want from chapters 1 through 5. Your topic must be covered in the text, so you can't choose anything that's not in your textbook, and it must be approved by me, so you need to submit your topic to me in the appropriate space in Blackboard. So the first thing you're going to want to do is identify the question that you want to answer. So for my example, I'm going to use something that's not in chapters 1 through 5, so you have no, so I'm not stealing a topic from you. So again, you can't use this example, but my example will be aggression in children. So the question I want to answer is, does watching violent TV make children more aggressive? So I've identified my question. Next, I'm going to provide a hypothesis about what I think is going to happen in my study. So if my question is, does watching violent TV make children more aggressive? My hypothesis might be, I predict that children who watch more hours of violent TV a week will be more aggressive than children who do not watch as much violent TV. So key there, and I wrote this already, or said this already in the chapter 1 video, is your hypothesis usually starts with, I predict that. So please understand the difference between your question and your hypothesis. That was one thing you did on one of your assignments. And a lot of you, when I asked what was the hypothesis of the study, you put the question they were trying to answer, not the hypothesis. So those are two different things. Okay, so after your hypothesis, you're going to describe a method you would use to investigate this question. Is it most appropriate to conduct a correlation study, an experiment, a naturalistic observation, or any other types of studies that are described in your textbook? So you'll just choose which one you want to use and then explain to me why if you chose correlation, how do you know it's a correlation and not an experiment? So for mine, we're going to do an experiment, and we're going to we'll go through that in a minute about like how you would write that out. But mine will be an experiment because I'm going to control different groups and see what kind of effects that has. Okay, and then you're gonna walk through that. Now, obviously, you're not actually conducting this study, so your method can be whatever you want. But just make sure that it's like logical and makes sense. And then you're going to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of your study design, and kind of talk a little bit about why this study would be important, those kind of things. Weaknesses refer to anything that's like so for example, like my study, it's kind of hard you might not be able to make kids watch very violent TV because that goes against ethical guidelines. So that might be a weakness of, well, we can't really study it too well because we can't force children to watch like rated R violent movies, so that kind of thing. So you'll have to be a little creative with that. And again, make sure that it's just logical. Okay, then your instructions down here, it needs to be between 2 to 3 pages long, written in APA format, which means double space, Times New Roman font size 12. You will have a title page and a reference page. Those pages, the title page and the reference page, do not count in your 2 to 3 pages. So you'll have 2 to 3 pages plus 2. So if your paper is 2 pages long, you're going to have 4 total pages. Okay, so let's move on now to the rubric, which will give you more detail on what is expected. So I made this real easy. You can see which part the paper is worth how many points. So like your title page is worth 10 points. We'll go over how to do that. The introduction, 30 points, your method section, and your discussion, and your reference page. So we'll go through that, how to format is really what we're going to talk about next. Okay, so whenever you're starting your paper, the first thing you're going to want to make is your title page. So go up here, and we're going to do Times New Roman. See, it pops up there. You're going to want your font to be in size 12. You're going to come over here to the paragraph box and click this little box. You're going to scroll down to 2 because this is your double spaced. Now for your title, you're going to hit, and again in the paragraph box, we want it centered. So you're going to write the title of your paper. You're going to hit enter, go down one line. You're going to write your name. You go down one more line and you're going to write Tarrant County College. Okay. And then if you really want to do it correctly, I'll space this down until like right there. So this is all that needs to be on your title page. My name does not appear, the class name does not appear, the date does not appear. This is exactly what your title page should look like. So you'll have the title of your paper, so something other than writing assignment 1, it needs to be something that reflective of what you're studying, your first and last name, and then Tarrant County College. Okay, so that's real easy, first part. You're gonna go down and start a new page. So when you start your new page, you're gonna repeat the title of your paper. Okay, space down, and then you're going to go back up here to the paragraph box, and we're going to go back to our align left. You always want to hit tab once before you start a paragraph, so we're going to tab over, and you're going to start your paper. Okay, so this is where your page limit starts. So this is page 1, and then you would need to write a whole nother page as well. So that's pretty easy. Now let's talk about in-text citations. So citations are going to be very important because that keeps you from being from plagiarizing work. So anything that you are not an expert in, so meaning anything you've learned in this class, anything that comes from your textbook or an outside source, relating to your topic, you will need to cite because you are not an expert in anything having to do with lifespan development. That makes it a little easy to know what needs to be cited. If you're saying things that are just like cliches or general knowledge, you don't have to cite those things. But if it's anything coming from your textbook or any other source, it needs to be cited. So like I said, the only source you have to use is your textbook. If you do find other sources, you will need to figure out how to cite those. So let's say we're citing something from our textbook. So you would write a sentence like, we'll start a new, or we'll just go here. So let's say, children who witness violent actions Okay, so let's pretend that this is from our textbook. So we've written the sentence. This is what I want to say. So instead of putting a period here, don't do that. You do a parentheses, and our author's last name is Feldman, I believe. So I'll just do it this way, actually. Author's last name, comma, publication year. Okay, so this goes for any source you're using. So if you're using a website, if you're using a CNN article, you would find the author's last name and the publication year. Now, if your paper or whatever you're citing has more than one author, that's when you're going to need to use Purdue OWL to figure out how it's supposed to look. So be sure you look that up. So for our book, it would be Feldman, I think it was like 2018, maybe, whatever the publication year is. Look for that in your book. You would put the 2018 or whatever it is right here. Okay, so you see how this isn't a direct quote. So I don't want you to directly quote anything from your textbook. You should not have any parentheses, any exact words. You're paraphrasing. So no direct quotes. So do not copy word for word anything from your textbook or any other source. You're paraphrasing information and you still need to cite it. So you shouldn't have quotations. I shouldn't be able to find the exact sentence in your textbook or source you use, and you still have to cite it. Okay, so that is, you'll do that throughout the paper. No matter how many times you cite the textbook, every time you use it, you have to cite it. So you'll do your whole paper like that, 2 pages. And then the last thing you'll do is your reference page. So on your very last page, you'll go back to a center and you're going to put references at the top and go back to your left align. So this is where you're going to cite all the sources you use. So up here where I did the citations, any source that you did a citation for like this in your text needs to be on the reference page. So I should be able to go through your reference list and find every author in here. They should match up perfectly. So for our textbook, now before I do this, your references are going to look a little different depending on what you're citing. So if you're just citing the textbook, we've done that before. You did practice on that in your one of your daily assignments. But if you're citing something else, it might look a little different. So again, you're going to want to use that Purdue OWL website to figure out how your reference is supposed to look, or you can just use the copy and paste feature that I showed you. So you're going to have the author's name, the year. Let me look up the year real quick. Oh, so it's actually 2017. The title of the book. And then you're going to have the publisher's information. It's Pearson. And normally you would have the page numbers you pulled the information from, I'm not too concerned about that. If you just want to add them, you can say like, okay, I used information from page 223 to page 300 if you want. So like I said, your references are going to look different depending on what kind of source you're citing. So be sure that you look that up. And then that will be your last page is your reference page. So you have 2 pages of content, 1 reference page, and 1 title page. Okay, and you don't need any page numbers. Like I said, my name doesn't need to be anywhere on it. It should look just like this. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. I think that's all you need to know. Um, if you are struggling, you have any questions, if you want me to look over your paper and make sure it looks right, I would strongly suggest that you do that. It's a great way to improve your grade rather than guessing, turning it in and thinking you did okay, and then you realize that maybe you didn't get the grade that you thought you would. So having said that, please, if you want my help, if you want me to review your paper, you need to do that as soon as possible. I will not be reviewing any papers that are sent to me the day before it's due, the day it's due. That's way too much to ask. So if you would like to have my help, I would suggest you go ahead and start on that paper as soon as possible, and that way it can be the most helpful.